The galaxy had always seen Earth as small, weak, and unimportant, and for centuries humans were treated like background noise in the grand politics of the stars they traded. They explored, but they never threatened, and so the great empires ignored them. But everything changed. The day the Zorath Empire decided to make an example of Earth, their fleets descended without warning, and entire cities burned under fire raining from the sky. Billions of lives ended in silence, and the galaxy watched, without care, believing it was the natural order of things, that the strong crushed the weak. But they were wrong, because in that silence, something awoke on Earth, something no one expected, and it was not fear. It was rage. It was the kind of rage that does not fade, the kind that builds and spreads through every heart, every leader and every soldier until it becomes unstoppable. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, and now they would rise not as prey, but as predators in their own right. The spark had been lit, and the war was coming. On the ruined surface of Earth, survivors dug through rubble, pulling children from fire, carrying wounded through streets filled with ash, and in their eyes there was no surrender, only a quiet vow whispered in every broken home: never again. Never again would humanity bow. Never again would they be prey in hidden bunkers. Generals gathered, staring at hollow maps of the galaxy, their faces hard, their voices steady. One of them said, "They think we are finished, but they have no idea what we have been building in the shadows." The others nodded. They knew the truth. Earth had prepared quietly. In silence, they had watched the stars plotting defenses, designing weapons that could punch through, shields and hulls alike, because humans learned fast. Every defeat in history had forged their cunning. Every invasion on Earth's soil across centuries had shaped their tactics, and now that knowledge would be turned against an empire that thought victory was already theirs. The first strike came swift and unexpected. Human ships, once considered outdated and fragile, launched from hidden docks deep in the asteroid belts. They moved with precision. No one believed they were capable of their weapons tore through Zorath patrols, shattering fleets in minutes. One survivor of the ambush sent a desperate warning across the stars, screaming, "The humans have teeth. They have teeth," before his signal was cut, and the galaxy stirred in disbelief. Rumors spread across markets, across military councils, across royal courts, whispers carried from world to world. Could it be true? Had Earth struck back? Had prey drawn blood against the predators of the galaxy? Most dismissed it as lies, propaganda. But in the darkness of their war rooms, the leaders of empires felt the first prick of fear. The humans did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They buried their dead and armed their living. They forged steel with hands still shaking from lost mothers, kissed their children goodbye, fathers strapped into flight suits with eyes burning, soldiers sharpened blades for battles they knew might be their last. Every soul on Earth carried the same fire, a single truth that spread like wildfire among them. If the galaxy wanted war, humanity would give it to them in ways no one had ever seen before. Far beyond Earth's orbit, deep in the void-cloaked stations, powered up engines of ships the galaxy never knew existed, an armada forged in silence, constructed from scraps from hidden mines and secret labs, every piece built under the eyes of a galaxy that never thought to look closely. One by one, the ships came alive, their hulls marked not with colors of peace, but with the scars of vengeance. They were not beautiful. They were not elegant, but they were terrifying, each one a weapon designed with a single purpose: survival by any means. As the first fleets moved out, leaving orbit for the void, every human watching from the surface felt the same weight. In their chest, the world had lost too much to falter. Now they were no longer waiting, no longer begging, no longer silent. The galaxy had wanted to crush them, and in doing so had created something far worse in the great councils of alien powers. Voices rose in panic. Some argued to crush the humans quickly before they grew. Others warned that to fight them now would be to awaken a storm. One counselor whispered, "You cannot fight creatures who have nothing left to lose." Out in the dark, the first human armada vanished into the stars, silent, determined, unstoppable. The spark had been struck, and though the galaxy still doubted, still laughed, still mocked, they would soon learn the truth. They would soon learn what it meant when humans rose in war. And on that day, the galaxy would feel fear for the first time in centuries. The news of Earth's first strike traveled faster than light itself across the networks of the galaxy. Every empire, every alliance, every merchant guild whispered of it behind closed doors. The Zorath Empire, who had begun the war with fire and cruelty, now found themselves humiliated in open space. Their patrol fleets shattered, their warships crippled by human weapons that should not have existed according to the galaxy's records. Humanity was supposed to be centuries behind in war technology, their ships weak, their fleets laughable. Yet the reality was different. The humans had planned, prepared, and hidden their strength for decades, waiting for the moment they would need it. And now that time had come, and every alien leader felt the first threads of dread wrapping around their hearts. On Earth, the survivors no longer wept in silence. They rose with a new purpose. Cities reduced to ash became rallying points. Children carried banners of unity, while soldiers walked through ruins, swearing oaths before the graves of the fallen. Humanity had endured countless tragedies in its history, from plagues to wars to invasions, but each had forged a harder people now. Those same instincts that once turned farmers into warriors and explorers into soldiers were alive again. Governments once divided came together under a single command, their voices no longer split by politics, instead united by rage and the vow of vengeance. The fleets would not only defend Earth, they would carry the war outward. The leaders of the Armada met in a chamber deep within a fortified bunker beneath the mountains. Their faces were marked by exhaustion, yet their eyes burned with determination. Admiral Kira Holt, the commander chosen to lead humanity's fleets, stood before them. She was tall, her uniform scarred with dust from the ruined capital, her voice steady as she spoke. "We have been underestimated and mocked. We have been treated as prey by the predators of the galaxy that ends today. We will strike not once, not twice, but until the galaxy understands what fear truly means." She raised her hand toward the star map, and with a wave, new points of light appeared, targets, systems the Zorath believed untouchable. The plan was brutal but necessary. Earth would not simply defend it, would retaliate. They would cut the Empire at its weakest points, choke their supply lines, destroy their outposts, force them to bleed resources until their pride cracked. The galaxy would watch, and they would learn what humanity could do when cornered and angry. Meanwhile, on the Zorath homeworld, panic rippled through the High Council. Their emperor shouted that humanity was nothing but insects. Yet his eyes betrayed his fear. Their intelligence reports were filled with confusion. Human technology had leapt decades ahead. Their ships carried weapons that pierced energy shields. Their soldiers wielded armor, capable of withstanding barrages longer than predicted. One general whispered that humanity must have had help, perhaps another empire in secret. But no evidence was found. The bitter truth was worse. Humanity had done this alone. In the cold void of space, the first great counterstrike began. Human ships emerged from hidden slip tunnels, their hulls glowing faint blue, their engines roaring like thunder. They fell upon Zorath outposts. With fury, missiles screamed across the darkness. Beams tore. Through enemy cruisers, boarding pods slammed against alien hulls, and soldiers stormed inside, fighting with a ferocity the Zorath could not match. Every station, every ship left behind, in the aftermath was marked by fire and silence. Only one message, broadcast into the void. Tell your masters, humanity remembers. The galaxy could no longer ignore the truth. Merchants pulled their ships from trade routes near human space, fearing the wrath of either side. Smaller empires once loyal to the Zorath began to question if the old order would crumble. Whispers spread that maybe the humans were more dangerous than anyone imagined. One world even sent a quiet signal offering supplies, not out of friendship, but out of fear. On Earth, the people watched. The reports of victories, but they did not cheer. The faces of the fallen flashed across every screen. Soldiers who had given their lives in distant space battles were mourned with silence, then honored with steel. Every loss made humanity harder. Every death added to the fire that drove them forward. It was no longer about survival. It was about legacy. No matter what happened, humanity had sworn to leave a mark on the stars. Yet, as the Armada pushed further, Admiral Holt felt the weight of what was to come. She knew the Zorath would not stay humiliated forever. Their counterstrike would be brutal, and the galaxy itself would have to choose whether to stand aside or step into the fire in her command chamber. She stared at the dark void. Outside her flagship's window, whispering the words, "The galaxy will learn to fear us, but will they ever forgive us?" Far beyond the front lines, alien spies carried human battle recordings to other empires. Hollow feeds of armored soldiers charging. Through fire, entire Zorath fleets collapsing under coordinated human strikes, the footage spread like a disease infecting every world with doubt. For the first time in centuries, the great empires whispered in shadows. The Zorath Empire reeled from the shock of its defeats, their once unstoppable fleets scattered across sectors, and their proud commanders stripped of glory in battles they believed unwinnable against mere humans. Fear spread faster than their ships. As whispers turned into panic among the outer colonies, merchants abandoned their routes, and citizens demanded protection. The Emperor raged inside his throne chamber, slamming his clawed fists against the armrests of his gilded seat. His voice shook. The walls, as he demanded answers, who gave them this power, who dared arm these primitives. His generals offered theories, each one more desperate than the last, but none dared speak the truth that humanity had been underestimated from the very beginning. While the Zorath debated, humanity moved with precision. Admiral Kira Holt guided her fleets deeper into hostile space with cold determination. The humans had no illusions of mercy. They had seen their cities burn, their families slaughtered. The scars of that attack still fresh in their minds. Every pilot, every soldier carried those memories like fire in their veins. This was not just war, it was justice, born from blood aboard the flagship. Resolute Holt gathered her officers. The War Council projected onto the table, their holograms flickering blue. "We strike their supply chains next," she declared, her tone sharp. "Every convoy we destroy weakens them. Every outpost we burn sows fear into their empire. No hesitation, no retreat." The fleet obeyed, and the void became a graveyard for the Zorath convoys. Human warships dropped from slip tunnels like wolves into the midst of helpless prey. Their cannons roared, missiles arced across the darkness, shredding freighters while escorts scrambled. In panic, soldiers stormed aboard cargo ships, overwhelming defenders and planting charges before vanishing back into the void. Every battle left wreckage drifting silently. Glowing faint with fire, survivors were allowed to escape, deliberately carrying one message back to their rulers: humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget. Back on Earth, the mood was somber, but unbroken cities still lay in ruins, their wounds raw. Yet the people gathered each night to watch the reports from the front lines, faces lit by the flickering glow of battle footage. The names of the fallen scrolled across every broadcast, each one spoken aloud in ceremony. People grieved, but with that grief came a harder steel. The old divisions of nations seemed smaller now. Humanity stood together like never before. The war was no longer a matter of leaders or borders. It was a matter of survival and pride. The species itself had risen. Across the galaxy, the ripple of fear grew stronger in neutral systems. Governments convened in secrecy, watching human victories with unease. Some believed humanity's fury would burn itself out. Others whispered that it would spread like wildfire, but no one could deny the truth. The balance of power had shifted for centuries. The galaxy's empires had treated Earth as insignificant. Now they watched in alarm as the humans carved their place with fire and iron. One by one, voices rose in their chambers, warning that if humanity was not stopped, the day would come when all would kneel. The Zorath Emperor would not allow that day. He summoned his warlords. His voice low with venom, they think they have tasted victory. He said they think they are hunters, but they are still prey. They are still weak. They do not know what true war is. Unleash the Armada. And with that command, the Zorath mobilized forces hidden deep within the Empire. War factories, long silent, roared back to life. Dreadnoughts older than some civilizations were pulled from ancient docks. Weapons, forbidden under treaty laws, were armed once more. The Empire would strike back with a force meant not just to defeat but to annihilate Admiral Holt. Felt the shift, she knew vengeance would bring retaliation, and she prepared the Armada for the storm. To come in her command chamber, she studied maps of the stars, marking enemy routes with steady hands. But inside, her thoughts turned heavy. She had seen victory. Yet she also knew victory was fragile. Too many losses could break morale, too much pride could blind them, she whispered to herself. Fear keeps us sharp, we cannot lose it now. The soldiers aboard her fleet sharpened their blades in silence. Some wrote letters to families back on Earth, sealed and stored in case they never returned. Others prayed, though faith had long been buried under science in space. There was no God but survival and the will to endure. They looked at the stars beyond their ships, not with wonder, but with grim resolve. Each star could hide an enemy. Each shadow could be the herald of death. Yet none faltered. The galaxy held its breath. Rumors spread that the Zorath were preparing something vast and terrible. Entire sectors whispered of fleets massing like storm clouds on the horizon. Merchants fled before they were caught between the two giants. Smaller empires sent spies to watch and report what they saw. Only deepened the terror. Humanity had risen, and the Zorath were rising to meet them, both sides racing toward a collision that would shape the galaxy for centuries. In the quiet before the storm, Holt stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring into the endless dark of space. Her crew silent behind her, her reflection faint in the glass. She knew what was coming. She knew the war had only just begun. And yet she felt no hesitation, no fear, only a single thought burning like fire through her veins: let them come. Humanity has risen, and the galaxy will learn what that means. The storm came without warning. The Zorath Armada erupted from slip space. Like a tidal wave of fire, their ships, dark leviathans bristling with weapons, stretching across the stars in a wall of steel and rage. Entire fleets poured into human-controlled sectors, dwarfing anything humanity had seen before. The void trembled. With their arrival, cannons glowing red engines leaving scars of light across the black, Admiral Kira Holt stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her eyes narrowing as reports flooded in shipyards under attack, colonies screaming for aid, patrols wiped. Out in minutes, the war she had warned of was here. And it was worse than anyone had imagined. The first clashes were brutal. Human fleets fought with courage, but the scale of the Zorath assault crushed them like ants. Destroyers vanished in the opening. Salvo's carriers torn apart. Before they could launch their fighters, the void filled with burning wreckage and drifting bodies. Every broadcast from the front carried chaos faces of captains giving their last orders, voices cut short by static screams. Drowned by explosions on Earth, the people watched in silence, their pride shaken for the first time, fear slipping back into their bones. The enemy was not retreating. This time, they had come to finish the war. Holt refused to bend. Her commanders gathered. In the War Council, their holograms flickering under stress as they argued over strategy. Some demanded retreat, consolidate defenses around Earth. Others insisted on scattering the fleets to protect colonies. Holt silenced them with one command voice. "Steady we hold," she said. "If Earth falls, nothing else matters. The fleet must gather every ship, every gun we make our stand here." She knew the risk. She knew it could mean the destruction of everything. But surrender was not an option. The Armada assembled. Around Earth, thousands of ships in tight formation, the greatest force humanity had ever mustered. Civilian eyes turned to the sky, where warships glimmered like a wall of stars orbiting their home world. Below, cities shook with the thunder of engines. As reinforcements poured into orbit, soldiers kissed their families goodbye before boarding troop carriers, knowing they might never return. The planet itself became a fortress weapons, mounted across continents, shields powered up for the first time. Experimental cannons activated everything humanity had, was thrown into the defense. When the Zorath came, the sky itself burned, the first wave slammed into human lines like a hammer. Missiles streaked across the void, energy beams carved through steel. Shields flared and failed, whole ships split apart in brilliant bursts of fire, but the humans did not falter. They fired back with everything they had. Battleships roared to life, carriers unleashed swarms of fighters, corvettes darted like knives. Through the chaos, striking larger ships at close range, the void became a storm of light, every second filled with destruction. Yet still the line held. Holt's voice cut through the comms, steady as stone to every ship, every captain. She spoke. Humanity stands today not as prey, not as victims, but as warriors. They will break upon us like waves upon rock, hold the line no matter the cost. Her words carried into every heart, steel replacing fear. Pilots clenched their teeth, soldiers gripped their rifles. Captains swore oaths. This was their moment, their stand, their proof that humanity would not bow. The battle stretched into hours, debris fields grew thick, ships burned on both sides, screams filled the comms, but still the humans endured clever traps. Turned the tide ambushes in asteroid fields, mines detonating at key choke points, smaller ships lured larger predators into kill zones. Holt herself directed the flow of war like a conductor, every move precise, every risk calculated with ruthless clarity. The Zorath grew frustrated, their losses mounting, though they still outnumbered the humans. Their arrogance faltered. On the surface of Earth, people watched the skies glowing with fire streaks of battle, visible even from the ground prayers. Whispered in streets, children held close by their parents, yet amid the fear, pride bloomed. Humanity was fighting for them, dying for them, and holding when no one thought they could. Every civilian became part of the war effort. Factories roared day and night. Engineers repaired ships as fast as they returned. Medics worked without sleep, feeding the endless tide of wounded. The planet itself seemed alive in defiance. The wreckage of the first great clash still drifted across the void, a graveyard of steel and fire. Yet even as humanity celebrated survival, Admiral Kira Holt felt the shadow of the next storm pressing close. She knew the Zorath had not shown their full hand. They had tested the defenses, measured Earth's resolve, and now they would return stronger, hungrier, determined to break what had resisted them. The High Council met in secret beneath the fortified bunkers of Geneva, leaders from every surviving colony linked in through secure lines, their faces drawn with exhaustion. Some wanted peace talks, others demanded all resources be turned to Earth. Holt listened in silence, until one elder spoke words that cut the chamber like a blade. "We are not ready for the war to come. Humanity cannot stand alone." It was a truth Holt already carried, and it set the course of the days ahead for the first time. Humanity would reach outward, not as explorers, not as traders, but as warriors seeking allies. She knew the galaxy had watched the battle, every signal broadcast across the stars, some races trembling at humanity's defiance, others scoffing that it was luck, yet even fear was a weapon. Holt ordered messages sent, not begging, but warning. To every power hiding in the dark, humanity rises, Humanity fights. Join us, or face the Zorath alone. The responses came slowly fractured voices from distant civilizations. Some offered whispers of aid, secret supplies, or information others refused, flatly fearing Zorath wrath, but a few unexpected replies stirred hope. The Chiron, a quiet aquatic species long thought neutral, sent word of hidden bases in deep space untouched by war. The Sarathi traders offered ships retrofitted with alien tech, faster and deadlier than anything humans had built. Whispers also came of a fallen empire whose ruins still held weapons of unimaginable power. Holt seized upon every lead she dispatched, fleets across unknown routes. Treasure hunters turned into soldiers, explorers into messengers, all in search of something that could shift the balance. Meanwhile, Earth became both fortress and forge wreckage. From the battle was salvaged, melted down, and reborn into new war machines. Shipyards expanded beyond. Capacity-producing corvettes by the dozen, cruisers by the weak, cannons longer than skyscrapers were hauled into orbit. Soldiers trained with grim resolve, knowing this war was not weeks but years, a fire consuming everything humanity had Holt visited. The academies, speaking not as a commander, but as one of them, reminding them of the screams of colonies burned, of the children taken, of the cities leveled, and she ended each speech with a promise: this time we will not break. But as hope grew so, did fear for scouts began to return with whispers of a gathering storm in the outer sectors, sightings of fleets larger than any before, entire systems darkened. Communications cut, trade routes turned silent, and refugee ships fleeing with tales of horror fleets of Zorath burning through worlds, leaving nothing behind, not even ruins. Holt studied the reports in silence, the scale staggering. She knew what it meant. The true war was about to begin, and humanity stood at the edge of extinction. On the night before the next offensive, Holt walked alone along the viewing deck of the Resolute. The stars stretched endless before her, glittering like the eyes of the dead. She remembered faces, names, commanders who had fallen in the first battle, captains who had sworn to hold the line and never returned, civilians whose last transmissions still haunted her every step. She felt the weight of command pressing down, yet beneath the weight was fire, a fire she refused to let die the next morning. The alarm came. The Zorath were moving again. Vast signatures detected pouring from slipspace like a tide, their destination clear Earth itself. The fleet scrambled into position. Holt's voice cut across the comms, steady as stone. This is not the end. This is the beginning, the Zorath. Believe we are prey today. We show them the cost of their mistake. Hold your ground, fight with everything you have, and know this: every star, every world is watching us, and they will remember what humanity is. As the first wave approached the sky above Earth, lit once more, missiles rising like spears, energy beams flashing through the void, fighters screaming into the fray, the armada roared across the darkness, and humanity met them with fire. The battle began anew, thunder rolling across the stars. Holt stood unflinching, her eyes locked on the enemy lines, and whispered words only she could hear. Let them come, the day will rise again, and with it the galaxy will learn fear. The first hours of the battle were chaos, a storm of light and fire stretching across the void. Earth's defenses groaned under the fury of the Zorath onslaught, their ships swarming like predators, tearing at the shields of human carriers. Missiles streaked through the dark, like falling stars colliding with alien hulls in bursts of molten flame. Admiral Holt's voice cut through the confusion, anchoring her fleets with calm commands. Maneuver, Delta. 3 hold the flanks, press the center. Her words carried power, not because they promised victory, but because they carried defiance, and the crews believed in her will. On the surface of Earth, the war was no less brutal. Civilians had been evacuated into deep bunkers, entire cities swallowed by silence as the ground quaked from orbital strikes. But not all could hide. Militias armed with rifles and repurposed alien tech patrolled the streets, ready to repel dropships. Every man, woman, and child became part of the struggle for survival. Holt knew if the line broke, above the planet, then Earth itself would become a battlefield, and humanity would pay a price too great to imagine. She ordered every reserve fleet into orbit, ships barely finished, armed with whatever weapons could be welded to their frames. Yet, the crews fought without hesitation. Through the chaos, a message reached Holt from deep within the outer sectors. One of her scout teams had succeeded. The Sarathi traders had delivered on their word-hidden caches of alien weapons from the ruins. Of the fallen empire had been found weapons designed not just for war, but for annihilation. Holt listened as her officers debated deploying them. Some feared the technology was cursed. Others saw it as the only chance to match the Zorath. Might Holt made her decision with steel in her voice. Prepare them. If the Zorath want fear, then let them taste it. The battle shifted tides. The alien armada pressed harder than ever, but humanity fought with a ferocity the galaxy had not seen before. Fighters slammed headlong into enemy cruisers, detonating in sacrificial strikes. Destroyers, crippled but still firing, dragged themselves into enemy formations, tearing them apart with their final shots. Holt's fleet bled but refused to break every loss. Answered with retaliation. Every scream of anguish met with thunder. As hours bled into endless combat, a strange silence fell across the Zorath lines, ships pulling back. Regrouping, Holt's commanders thought it was retreat, but her instincts told her otherwise. It was not defeat. It was preparation. The Zorath had studied humanity's new strength and were adjusting. Then the second wave arrived, darker, larger ships emerging from the void, their hulls bristling with weapons no human eye had seen before. Holt's heart sank, but her voice never wavered. Hold the line. Every second we stand is another second. Earth lives. The new fleet struck with monstrous force, tearing through the outer defenders like paper. Holt saw entire wings erased. In a single volley, yet amid the destruction, her words ignited something in the human crews. Desperation fused with fury. They fought not for glory, but for survival. They fought because behind them lay their families, their children, their world, and, if they fell, nothing remained. Then came the moment Holt had waited for. The alien weapons humanity had unearthed were ready. Her engineers screamed warnings about unstable power cores, systems untested, but she overrode them, unleashed them, and the void changed forever. Colossal beams lanced out of the human lines, brighter than suns, cutting through Zorath dreadnoughts as if they were fragile shells. Explosions rippled across the battlefield, shockwaves shaking the very heavens. The alien armada faltered for the first time in the war, their hunters tasting fear. The galaxy was watching transmissions carried across every channel from hidden observers, from distant powers who had doubted the humans they saw. Earth's fleets drenched in fire, refusing to break, wielding ancient power against a predator. Long-thought, unstoppable whispers spread across the stars. Humanity rises. Humanity fights, and for the first time the galaxy began to believe it. But Holt knew it was not victory. Not yet. As the wreckage drifted, the Zorath pulled back again, regrouping in the void, and this time she felt the shadow of something greater looming. She had seen only claws, not the full beast. She stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring into the endless dark. Her reflection mingling with the stars, she whispered to herself, words none else heard. This is only the beginning. The war that will decide the fate of the galaxy has just begun, and when it comes, humanity will stand, or humanity will burn. Her fleet scarred her people, weary. Yet her fire did not fade, for she knew the truth. She had seen it in the way her crews fought, in the way the galaxy trembled watching them. Humanity was no longer prey. They had risen in war, and from this day forward, the galaxy would never forget the fear of facing Earth.